Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the pharaohs of the oppression. It's in your book Unwrapping Pharaohs, lesson number 12. So the question you may be thinking, were the pharaohs oppressed? And actually, no. What we're talking about is when they were oppressing the Israelite people. And we're going to discuss that and talk about some of the different pharaohs during this reign and whether that was the actual pharaohs that the Bible talks about during this time period. But first, let's start with Sesostris III, okay? He was the 5th king of the 12th dynasty. And we know this from his pyramid that was found at Dashur in south of Cairo. He built this pyramid there, and we found some things, but not a lot, because immediately after his death, it looks like the tombs were raided, okay? So some of the information is a little sketchy because it looked like it was destroyed pretty quickly. However, next to this pyramid, they found a few things. Found a little niche by the pyramid, okay? And it discovered information about Queen Neferet and his father, Sesostris II. They also found a lot of different gold bracelets, necklaces, pendants, etc. And all of this information is now in the Metropolitan Museum in New York. However, like I said, most of what was inside the tomb was already gone when they got there. They were just lucky to find some things next to it. Then we move from him to Sesostris III, also known as Sensothweret II. And his name was given by Manetho, and it means man of power, okay? And this one is important because he fought many battles. He was a man of power, fought many different battles. The Nubians in the south, the Canaanites in the north, Shechem. And he was also a very ruthless fighter and warrior. He would literally burn the crops of his enemies and starve them out, and just was very violent towards them. But eventually he created the biggest kingdom of all of Egypt. He also loved himself, as most of the pharaohs did, and he created multiple statues and sculptures of himself. The major difference is when most of the other pharaohs created statues of themselves, they would hide any flaws they might possibly have and had the statues commissioned as to what they really wanted to look like as opposed to what they necessarily truly did look like. But Sesostris III did not. He had the sculptures show flaws and all. Everything that may have been wrong with him, he had it actually put into the statues because it wanted to be an exact replica of who he was. He is also probably the king that oppressed Israel, okay? There's some confusion about the dating of this, and there's some new research going on about the dating of the Egyptian history and all of ancient history to begin with. But so the confusion is really about some of the dates, okay? The Middle Kingdom scholars say is from 1991 to 1786 BC. They say Sesostris was from 1840, reigned in 1840 BC. But the Bible chronology says that the Exodus happened in 1440 by BC and the oppression was in 1600 BC. So the dates are a little bit off depending on which one you look at. But remember, these are ancient documents, and so they may not be exactly right. However, there is evidence to support that that Sesostris III was the pharaoh during the time of the Israeli oppression, okay? First one is that there was lots of building projects going on. He built a lot of different things, and you see this in Exodus 1, verse 11. It also shows there's evidence to support and show that there was a lot of slaves during his time. And they were probably the slaves of the Israelis. And we get this information from the Kahun excavations. We also know that we found different papyri and different things. And Seneptisi there was a papyrus on there that talked about this, and it was the legal rights of Asiatic slaves or the Israeli slaves, okay? And so, again, there's evidence that we keep finding saying that this is probably the pharaoh of this time. And then we have Moses, okay, the time of Moses. It talks about Amenemhat III, who had 2 daughters and no sons. And one of the daughters that we find evidence for is Sobeknefer. And she, according to the ancient historical records, had an adopted son. And his name was Amenemhat IV, possibly Moses. Okay, so there's different evidence that can point us in the direction and make you think that this is, but there's no actual concrete proof yet. But the evidence does suggest it. Okay. Also, during this time, we had some female pharaohs. This period, and so the first was Neferu, and she also was given a male name of Horus, okay? But she herself referred to herself as she, quote, she whose appearance is stable, king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Neferu of Shadat, she lives. So she was basically making the world know that she was king. And then her like godly name, her pharaoh name was son of Ra, Neferu. There's a statue of her that was found where she's wearing a male kilt over her female clothing, and that statue can be found in the Louvre. Then also during this time we had Queen Hatshepsut. Lastly, we have Amenemhat III. He built two different pyramids. One was at Dashur and one was at Hawara Fayum. Again, there's evidence when we discover a look at his that this was during the time of the Israeli oppression, because one of his pyramids, the one at the Hawara Fayum, was made from sun-dried bricks, the same type of bricks that the Israeli slaves were building in the Bible. Its outside was smooth with white stones, but the tomb chamber was found empty and pilfered and looted. So there wasn't a lot of evidence in there to tell us one way or the other. However, they did find a famous labyrinth there. It was found adjacent to the Hawara pyramid, and their Herodotus claimed it as a world wonder of the world. Okay. And it had two different stories with 3,000 rooms, and half it was underground. And it was all believed to be built by Amenemhat III. And so this was, during that period where we think, Moses would have been Amenemhat IV. The evidence shows that there was slaves, and probably Israeli slaves, that they were building with sun-dried bricks. There was lots of building going on. And so this period that they're calling the pharaohs of the oppression of Israel. So hopefully you read the material and you can see a little bit more for yourselves. Thanks.